over half of black workers in this country will earn less than $15 an hour. Thank you, Bernie Sanders, you bumbling knucklehead. Look, this is what I love about the left. They never seem to realize that anything and everything they say can and will be used against them in a rational conversation which includes logic and reason. Uh-oh. I mean, this turn of phrase that he's using is so indicative of how the left likes to skew little bitty facts to create these huge ripples within our culture, okay? Let me explain. First, let's consider what the bumbling knucklehead actually meant by over half, okay? PolitiFact, a liberal-leaning website, just so you leftists know that my resources are beyond repute and beyond scrutiny, did some fact-checking on Bernie's little statement there, and they found out something very interesting. In order for his statistic to be true, he would actually have to state $15.60 an hour, meaning less than half of black workers will work for less than $15 an hour. It doesn't become more than half until about $15.60 an hour. Not by much, though. Let's call it 51%. So 51% of black workers in America work for less than $15.60 an hour. Now, this isn't a big error on Bernie's part, and I think that we can actually forgive him for that. But it does show some light on how he is trying to coerce you into thinking the absolute worst, because he's not going to tell you that when he says over half, he doesn't actually mean 65% or 75% or even 80%. You see, that's what he wants you to believe about black workers, okay? That's why he says over half instead of 51%. But you see, the left will never qualify their remarks with fact, because they know that if they do, then their entire platform is going to start to unravel, just like we've already seen the old bumbling knucklehead's remark start to unravel. So, okay, what does Bernie mean by black workers? Well, obviously he means black people working, right? But again, this is where his turn of phrase becomes very conspicuous, because yet again, here's the truth he doesn't want you to know. About 37% of white people will earn less than $15 an hour also. Now, that may fall short of over half, but because there are 5 times as many white people in the workforce than black people, that actually comes to about 3 times as many people by volume. In other words, for every black person that earns less than $15 an hour, there are 3 white people that earn less than $15 an hour. You see, the math is very simple, or you would think it should be for someone running for president, or I don't know. Now, why not mention white workers too? Why just mention the black workers? I mean, they are in the same category. He can't be determining his numbers based on status, education, income, or occupation. Oh no. He's simply determining his numbers based on skin color, and thereby failing to represent 55 million American workers because they're white. Now, if old Bernie there would have included all people in his remark and told you the truth, saying it like it is, he would have been able to truthfully say not 50 or 51 or 52%, but a full 55% of American workers will earn less than $15 an hour. But now it's too late. You see, if Bernie started changing his claims now, everyone would see his true objectives. They would become transparent. Everyone would then know that Bernie is simply trying to disparage white people through misinforming the public by neglecting certain facts to coerce black people into disliking white people and earning their vote, thereby driving a wedge between white people and black people and creating huge ripples of dissension within our culture. Way to go, you bumbling knucklehead. Okay. I'll stop calling him the bumbling knucklehead. I'm starting to hurt people's feelings, okay? I'll just refer to him by his initials from now on, okay? So, what does old BS mean when he says, in this country? Surely he's just separating the haves with the have-nots. Because any worker, black or white, working for an average of $4.90 in China, or $3.12 in Russia, or a whopping $1,000 to $2,000 a year in North Korea, or in any other socialist country, which, by the way, Bernie is trying to convert our democracy into, or any worker, black or white, working in any other part of the world would look at $15 an hour and think to themselves, wow, black people in America are rich, man, they got bling. But don't tell BS that, because he'll stop trying to sound partisan and start saying nothing at all, which would only help his platform, so and that brings us to the last part of Bernie's little spit, $15 an hour. Now lately, the entire country, led by the minimum wageists out there, believe that $15 an hour is the answer to all of our problems. And why? Because, man, we all just sort of magically deserve it, dude. That's why. But not BS. Oh, no. He thinks that only black people should make more than $15 an hour, apparently, and that anything less than $15 an hour, well, that's just a mere pittance that nobody could ever survive on. Those poor people. Now, look out, okay, because here comes some more of that simple math, okay? $15 an hour comes to about $31,300 a year, whereas $15.60 an hour, which is the true statistic, actually comes to about $32,500 a year. Now, the esteemed Washington Post just recently declared that the new work week is 47 hours, not 40, which would actually come to about $36,700 a year. This is, of course, before we take out taxes and insurance. Notice I said taxes. Yeah, welcome to the middle class, where a portion of your income isn't even going to be your income. At any rate, this is about where over half of the black workers in America can expect to be paid. Well, that brings me to my next issue, which is something Bernie has never even asked about, so I therefore have to assume he's never even considered, and that is, what exactly is $15 an hour, or even less? Well, I know from personal experience I spent more than half of my professional life earning less than $15 an hour as one of Bernie's forgotten white people. And in all that time, I worked with a whole lot of Mexicans and a whole lot of blacks and a handful of Vietnamese people. About 75% of us were male, 25% were female. And in all that time, I learned a lot of very, very valuable lessons, being what Bernie would have you believe is disadvantaged, poor, beaten. You see, these are very hard-working people that earned everything they got. And with that came a sense of pride. And they all had girlfriends or boyfriends. Most of them were actually married with children. They drove cars and a lot of trucks. Some of them had apartments. Others had houses. They weren't the McMansions that our culture has been programmed to believe we just magically deserve, but they were nice homes, good homes to wake up in on Christmas morning, say, and some of them even owned boats. Now, can you imagine that? Private ownership on less than $15 an hour? Oh, that's despicable. And that's not all. These people actually went out on the weekends to places like movie theaters and restaurants and bars. They enjoyed their children's soccer games or piano recitals on Sunday afternoon, after a surprising majority of them actually came home from a place called, church. So I guess what I really learned from these poor, desperate people is that if a person lives their life responsibly, if they take care of their obligations, if they cultivate healthy relationships both at home and at work, and if they stop looking at what they don't have and start wondering how to utilize what they do have, both here and here than life down here on planet Earth where the majority of us earn less than $15 an hour? Well, it's pretty possible. But you know, this is the same advice that I would give to someone who made $250,000 or $500,000 or $2 million a year, because it still applies. But why doesn't Bernie Sanders feel this way? Why does Bernie Sanders believe that you can actually put a price tag on a person's personal choices or their moral decisions or even the current situation? Because having everyone believe that they're only as good as the money they make, especially if they're black, well, that's a pretty BS thing to say. And don't even get me started on that other group of people that Bernie Sanders and the left do not want you to consider. And that is the whopping 49% of black workers who make more than $15.60 an hour. But I'll discuss that on the second part of this episode, so please stay tuned. In the meantime, comment, subscribe, like, and share. I'm the Layman. Peace out.